The question landed between them like a spark in dry air, half joke and half truth, and it changed the direction of both their lives before either of them realized it. What began as a careless smile and a teasing glance from a single dad boss would soon unravel years of loneliness, buried grief, and the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, two broken hearts could learn how to be together again. Before the story unfolds any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that love often arrives when we least expect it, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little warmth today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. Ethan Carter had learned how to survive on very little sleep and a lot of responsibility. As the CEO of a growing architecture firm, he carried the weight of deadlines, employees, and investors, but none of that compared to the weight he carried every morning when he woke up his 8-year-old son, Noah, for school. Ethan had not planned on becoming a single father, and he certainly had not planned on doing it while building a company from the ground up. His wife had died 3 years earlier in a car accident that left him numb, hollowed out, and afraid of loving anything too deeply again. Since then, his life had been carefully structured around routine, control, and emotional distance, because chaos had already taken enough from him. Grace Miller entered his life quietly, almost invisibly, the way people who do not expect to be seen often do. She was hired as a project coordinator, efficient and calm, with a way of smoothing tension in meetings without ever drawing attention to herself. Grace had her own reasons for staying small. She had come out of a long relationship that ended with betrayal and a loss of self-worth she was still trying to rebuild. She needed the job, the stability, and the sense that her life was moving forward again, even if her heart lagged behind. From the beginning, there was something unspoken between them. Not attraction in the loud, obvious sense, but a quiet recognition, like two people who had both survived storms and could see the wreckage in each other's eyes. Ethan noticed the way Grace stayed late without complaint, the way she listened more than she spoke, the way she smiled at Noah when Ethan brought his son to the office on weekends. Grace noticed the exhaustion behind Ethan's professionalism, the tenderness that surfaced only when he talked about his son, and the sadness he carried like a second shadow. The night everything shifted was supposed to be ordinary. A major deadline had gone wrong, forcing the team to stay late to fix last-minute changes. Rain hammered against the windows, the city outside blurred into streaks of light, and one by one the employees packed up and left. Grace stayed to finish reorganizing files, and Ethan stayed because he had nowhere else to be. Noah was spending the night at a friend's house, and the silence of Ethan's apartment felt heavier than the rain. By the time they were done, it was late, the storm had worsened, and public transport was delayed. They stood near the office windows, exhaustion softening the edges of formality. Ethan tried to lighten the moment, letting a rare hint of humor slip through his usual reserve, and he asked, almost teasingly, whether she wanted to stay there tonight, joking about whether there was room for two in his bed. The words surprised them both, hanging awkwardly in the air, followed by a sudden flush of vulnerability on Ethan's face and a sharp, confusing ache in Grace's chest. Grace laughed it off on the surface, but inside, she felt something crack open. It was not desire that unsettled her, but the realization that someone had seen her as more than just useful or invisible. Ethan apologized quickly, embarrassed, retreating back behind the walls he had spent years building. But something had already changed. The joke, clumsy and human, stripped away the illusion that he was untouchable. He was just a man, tired and lonely, reaching out without quite knowing how. From that night on, their connection deepened in small, careful ways. They shared coffee in the mornings, exchanged quiet smiles during meetings, and began to talk about things that had nothing to do with work. Ethan told Grace about the night he lost his wife, about the guilt of surviving, about the fear that loving again would somehow betray the past. Grace told Ethan about the relationship that had broken her trust, about how she sometimes wondered if she was too damaged to be chosen again. The real turning point came through Noah. Children have a way of seeing truth without the filters adults rely on. Noah adored Grace instantly, drawn to her warmth and patience. He talked about her constantly, asking when she would come over again, asking why she looked sad sometimes, asking questions Ethan was not prepared to answer. Watching Grace kneel down to Noah's level, listening to him with complete attention, Ethan felt something unfamiliar and terrifying bloom in his chest. Hope. But hope came with fear. Ethan pulled back, burying himself in work, afraid of repeating loss. Grace noticed the distance and assumed she had misread everything. Old insecurities resurfaced, whispering that she was only convenient, only temporary. The tension between them grew, quiet but heavy, until one evening when Grace finally decided to leave early, her resignation letter half written in her bag. Ethan found her in the hallway, the city lights dim behind them, and for once he did not hide. He told her that he was scared, that he did not know how to open his heart without risking everything he had rebuilt. He admitted that the joke he had made that night was not really a joke at all, but a moment of honesty that slipped out before he could stop it. Grace listened, tears blurring her vision, and for the first time in years, she did not run. What followed was not a perfect love story, but a real one. They moved slowly, carefully, learning how to trust, how to communicate, how to make space for grief and healing at the same time. There were setbacks, misunderstandings, and moments when fear almost won. But there were also quiet dinners, shared laughter, and the growing certainty that they were stronger together than apart. One night, months later, after Noah had fallen asleep on the couch between them during a movie, Ethan looked at Grace and felt a peace he had not known since before his loss. The question he had once asked as a joke now carried a different weight. This time, it was not about a bed, but about a life, about whether there was room for two people to choose each other every day, despite their scars. As the story draws close to its end, if this journey of healing, love, and second chances has touched your heart in any way, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to support more stories like this. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Grace eventually moved in, not as a replacement for what was lost, but as a new beginning built on honesty and care. Noah thrived in the warmth of a home filled with laughter again. Ethan learned that love did not erase grief, but it could live alongside it, softening its edges. Grace learned that she was worthy of being chosen, not despite her past, but because of the strength she had gained. From it. Just before the ending, we ask you to leave a comment sharing what this story made you feel, or simply write a word that describes your heart right now, because your voice matters here. In the end, it was never about a careless joke or a fleeting moment of attraction. It was about two people who had been broken in different ways finding the courage to believe that there was still room in their lives, and their hearts, for something beautiful to grow.